impacted by violence within the city, and one of the ways that we do that is by working with, collaborating with, acknowledging, appreciating victim services agencies outside of the DA's office, in addition to our own resources within the office, that have been doing tremendous work. Stay tuned on that one. In the next few weeks, there will be an announcement that is important and impactful when it comes to that excellent work that has been done for so long and perhaps under-resourced at times. But we do need to acknowledge that this has not been a great weekend, although we continue to see historic improvements, and not just with homicides and not just with shootings, with one category after another of violent crime and nearly all categories of property crime as well. This weekend was violent. This weekend was disturbing. Since Thursday, July 24th, 2025, Philadelphia experienced 20 shooting victims. There were 2 shooting incidents that were quadruple shootings. And I do want to point out that there was a mother who was shot in each one of those quadruple shootings. One of those quadruple shootings occurred on Thursday night in the 22nd District, the other on Saturday night in the 39th District. We are here to talk about them, although they're very active investigations and there's not a ton that we can say about them, but we are here to talk about them. We are also here, however, to talk about another shooting incident that's extremely disturbing, where police tried to effect a car stop, and next thing we knew, shots were being fired at police from that vehicle. That is not an active investigation because the participants were arrested promptly and without being shot and without being killed. It was, I think, another example of some of the excellent discipline and restraint that we have seen on the part of officers who were in harm's way, but nevertheless were able to make sure that no unnecessary shots were fired, and we are grateful for that. Let me be very clear. For those of you who are not following the news, people who shoot people get convicted, and then they go to jail, and they go to jail for appropriately lengthy periods of time. That is true when they shoot at police officers. That is true when they shoot at mothers. That is true when they shoot up neighborhoods. That's what actually happens. And we will continue to do that. We will continue to do that in the same way that we will continue to hold 2 things at the same time. 2 hands, 2 things. Why we got 2 hands if we're not going to hold 2 things? Thing 1, it was a terrible weekend. Thing 2, we are seeing historic reductions in the number of victims of shootings, historic reductions in the number of shootings, historic reductions in the number of homicides. That is what we are seeing, and both of those things are true. The good news should encourage us to do better in addressing the bad news, and I certainly hope that it will. I'm delighted to be joined here today by so many good partners and colleagues in this work. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel is here. Philadelphia Sheriff Rochelle Bilal is here. From our office, we have First Assistant Bob Listonby, ADA Amanda Hedrick, who is the Chief of our Charging Unit, is here. ADA Bob Wainwright, who is the Chief of our Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, is here. Tania Leonard, who is the Director of our DAO CARES Unit, is present. Mariel De La Cruz, Director of our Victim Service Unit, is here. And we also have a very special guest with us today, Angela Wade, who is a co-survivor of homicide. I spoke to Angela Wade, and I'm going to give her the mic first because I think it's important. I spoke to Angela Wade about her experience as a mother who lost a child to gun violence, and to discuss the harm and impact in her life and on families and communities. Understand that Angela Wade has not simply experienced what she calls a, quote, journey, unquote, the, quote, pain, the open wound, unquote, but she actually leads a group of mothers who come together because, I think we will hear Angela explain, it is the connectedness among people who are suffering an almost unimaginable experience. Excuse me. It's that connectedness that allows them to continue on that journey. Obviously, we will have a lot more to say, and we are very grateful for the work that our law enforcement partners, our government partners are doing both in prevention and enforcement. But at this time, I would like to ask Angela Wade to come forward and tell us a little bit about her experience and her thoughts on this incredibly important issue, given that this month is, in fact, National Bereaved Parents Awareness Month. Angela Wade.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Larry. My name is Angela Wade. I am a co-survivor. My son, Joseph Daniels III, was a victim of gun violence. On December the 7th, 2019, he went out to drive for Uber to get extra Christmas money for my grandchildren and was shot and killed and robbed. Even to say it now, it just brings back that pain. It's been a journey. It's a journey that no mother, no parent, nobody should ever have to face alone. So as Larry stated, the community part of it is important. We need community. We need programs such as I'm involved with Teller Made. I'm involved with Northwestern Victim Services, and I'm involved with PCVGR, and just to name a few. We need the community to come together and help us in a time like this, because without community, we couldn't make it. My son actually is he was a coach for Philadelphia youth basketball. He was a community activist. He went around to various schools and helped with mentorship, basketball, summer camps, and a host of other things. The loss is profound. It's a lot of schools. The community really is at a loss. It was such a changer, a game changer in terms of what he was doing in the community with him being absent now. You know, kids call me and say, you know, things are not the same without having a coach who has so much love in their heart as, you know, mentoring us. We don't have that anymore. So he's gone, but we need people to come together as a community to step up to help communities and children with grief and loss. We need that. So I actually have a nonprofit called JED3 Inc., which specializes in helping kids with grief and loss, siblings, children. So we need that. I'm now caring for my grandchildren and my daughter, who are all under the age of 21. It's not easy, the trauma that they experience, the sleepless nights, the nightmares, the constant counseling. It just doesn't stop. Once somebody pull the trigger, it doesn't stop there. It's just so much trauma and there's so much involvement that the family needs holistically. So our job should be to have more organizations that want to go out here and outreach and help the families who are in need. And even my family is 5 years, this happened 5 years ago, but it never gets old, and the pain never goes away, and the help never stops. We need help. My family still need help, and other families need help. Even all the stuff that happened with the families over the weekend, we need help and support. So, I just encourage families and mothers and survivors who are going through this to reach out and get connected with different agencies that can help with the cause. And also with myself, I'm with Melanie Nelson. I do a group monthly at the Northwestern Victim Services, helping mothers just connect, share relatable stories, and just help build each other up in a time of need. So thank you for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
So, Angela, I just want to thank you for reminding us that life is not a simple cartoon. Sometimes stories get told in a simple way, and I have to admit, maybe there have been times when this little cartoon in my head says, oh, a mother who lost a son or a child to gun violence, that's overwhelming, that's unimaginable, but you forget that that child may have children, and that those children now need parenting, and those children are likely to be cared for by the mother who lost someone to gun violence. And then there are the siblings, and then there are the friends, and then there are all the other people who've been traumatized. So you go from overwhelming in this imaginary scenario where it's a single child who had no children. You go from that to reality, where there is this entire circle of people who have this devastating impact, and it is left to that mother or that parent to try to deal with all of that. All right. I think what makes more sense than my getting into some of these details with reference to all three of the incidents we have discussed, the shooting at police and the two quadruple shootings, I think what makes the most sense is to call up Deputy Commissioner Frank Venor to provide specifics primarily on the shooting at police. Secondarily, and perhaps during Q&A, the details we can share, given that these are open investigations with reference to the other two. After him, we will hear from ADA Amanda Hedrick to discuss the charges. Police Commissioner Bethel will have remarks, and so will Sheriff Bilal before I get up here again. But we will start, and without interruption, go through DC Venor, ADA Amanda Hedrick, Commissioner Bethel, and Sheriff Bilal in that order. DC Venor.
All right, thank you. Good morning. In reference to the case the district attorney referred to where the officers were shot at, Friday evening, just before 5:30, 3 officers from the 19th District were working in full uniform. They were in an unmarked police car when they observed a white Kia Forte driving at a high rate of speed, very erratic through the streets. At one point, they even observed the vehicle go the wrong way on a one-way street. They attempted to stop that vehicle by activating their lights. At one point during that attempted stop, the passenger of that white Kia Forte fired at least 2 rounds in the direction of the officers. That car then proceeded to go around the corner and got stopped behind a truck, and all 3 males, we believe there were 3 inside the car, exited on foot and ran from that location. The officers proceeded to chase the males. 2 of them were caught. The male that, and the district attorney will talk about charges, but Nathaniel Smith, 30-year-old male, we believe was involved in the shooting. There was another male by the name of Khalil Flowers that was also caught, that was charged, and I'll let them explain. The investigation went on to investigate that vehicle, as well as attempt to investigate the 3rd male. That's ongoing. The vehicle, inside the vehicle was, a firearm was found, 9mm, and there were 2 fired cartridge casings found in the vehicle. There was also a quantity of narcotics found in that vehicle. So this is still an active investigation. Very lucky that no officers were injured, nobody else was injured in the street there, and 2 of these individuals are facing charges, and I'll let the DA talk about those charges.
Good morning. The front seat passenger, Nathaniel Smith, has been charged with assault of a law enforcement officer, aggravated assault, felony of the 1st degree, firearms charges, including carrying a firearm concealed without a license, and other lesser included charges for those assaults on those police officers. He is also charged with possession with intent to deliver crack cocaine and marijuana, as well as conspiracy to do so. Mr. Flowers is charged with possession with intent to deliver crack cocaine and marijuana and conspiracy to do so. Mr. Flowers' bail was set at $500,000. Bail for Mr. Smith is a total of $1,050,000 in this matter.
So I'll say above that, first and foremost, Ms. Wade, I want to thank you for your words and your condolences to you. I think do not lose her words, because that's our why, as to why this work is important. Why is our job, and particularly from leading the police department, to go after all of these individuals. I listened to the air on Friday when my officers were engaged and being shot upon. And then I think many of you will walk up those steps and see on the wall where the men and women that we've lost over these past years through gun violence. And so I continue to be proud of the men and women of this Philadelphia Police Department who continue to put their lives on the line for the city of Philadelphia. We've made over 1,100 arrests as it relates to individuals carrying guns, and taking 2,500 guns off the street. And so we will not be deterred. It was only 3 weeks ago, or July 4th, when my officers came under attack then, where multiple gunshots were fired on officers in 25th District. And we were grateful then that they also were not injured and was able to neutralize that individual. This continues to be the work. Ms. Wade's words are positive words around what our job and our duty is. Her son should never be out there working like that and lose his life to gun violence. It is also unacceptable that we are losing and our children are being shot as a result of this. It is cowardly acts to sit in a group and be firing a weapon when you have children being shot. I'll take you back 50 years as a young kid growing up in the neighborhood. Even during our gang wars, the gang guys would stop if children and families and parents and mothers are walking down the street. That is not acceptable. And we cannot allow to continue to allow our children being shot in this city and our mothers being shot as if it doesn't matter. One of the things the mayor has constantly raised up is that this is not normal, that this is not acceptable. We're not going to accept the status quo. We continue to take that as our charge. We will not accept the fact, even though the numbers have gone down, as the DA describes, and we're down significantly with our numbers, we will not accept the fact that this violence continues. And the mayor's given us our charge, our department, working in partnership with our collaborating partners, Public Office Safety, to continue that effort, and we will continue to do that on a regular basis. I know you have questions around the other shootings. We'll come back for that. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, DA Krasner. Heartfelt, man. I know how you feel. I want to begin by expressing my support for the brave officers of Philadelphia Police Department who were targeted in this senseless act of violence. We are grateful for their survival, Commissioner, and their continued service to our city. Today's announcement is a testament to what happens when law enforcement agencies collaborate. The Philadelphia Sheriff's Office stands in full partnership with the District Attorney's Office and the Police Department to ensure that those who commit violent acts, especially against law enforcement, are swiftly held accountable. Attacks on our officers are attacks on the safety and stability of our communities. We will not tolerate this kind of violence, and they don't really want this smoke. Gun violence is not just a police issue. It's a public health crisis affecting every neighborhood, every person. The Sheriff's Office remains committed to executing warrants, removing illegal firearms, and supporting community safety initiatives that get to the root of causes of the violence in our city. Together, we can build stronger, safer neighborhoods where no one, whether an officer or resident, has to live in fear. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I think it's pretty clear from the excellent messaging that you've heard already that shooting anybody, shooting a police officer, shooting at a police officer, shooting at law enforcement, shooting at a child, shooting a mother, shooting at a mother, shooting at a cookout, that none of this is acceptable, none of it will be tolerated, and that we care deeply about the facts. The facts on this shooting at police are pretty simple and totally inexcusable and completely unacceptable. That's where that stands. And there's a lot more I would love to say about those quadruple shootings, but I'm going to respect the reality that we are intensively involved, as of course PPD is as the primary investigator, but we are intensively involved with those investigations, and we need to make sure that we answer what we can and do not answer what we should not in order to preserve the integrity of those investigations. At this time, we are going to go to some Q&A. Channel 3 CBS, Dan Snyder.
You able to step up and do a live shot? Can you come back in?
Of course, sure. Must be something exciting out there. Channel 6, ABC, Mr. Perez. No questions, okay. 10 Telemundo, Jaime Beryl.
Si se puede en español, por favor. Solamente su opinión sobre la violencia que involucra a menores y a madres.
Okay, so the question is, would I speak in Spanish, comment upon the violence that has been affecting mothers and minors in Philadelphia over the weekend? Pretty close, anyway. Lo que quiero decir es que no vamos a aceptar una ciudad donde los niños y las madres viven en peligro de la violencia de armas, y por eso esas personas que van a poner madres, hijos, hijas en peligro, van a sufrir las consecuencias. Nosotros vamos a arrestar, a proseguir y meter en la cárcel por un periodo justo. No vamos a aceptar un mundo de peligro en cuanto a niños ni sus madres. All right, so the answer was translated, sort of. The answer, I guess you can translate yourself. The answer was we are never going to accept a city where mothers and children are in danger, and anyone who is going to participate in gun violence that puts mothers and children in danger is going to be arrested, is going to be prosecuted, and is going to be put into jail for an appropriate and just period of time for such a serious crime. All right, very good. Aaron Baskerville, 10 NBC.
I guess you talked about both of these quadruple shootings. Can you just for our purposes, go over what you know about both of these and kind of the latest? So you kind of let us know what you know.
I'm going to defer to PPD on this one. Let me just speak to them, see how much they would like to comment on these two. DC Venor in particular has a better grasp of the details, and also we are in the middle of an investigation. And for reasons we've discussed many times, I do not want to get ahead of them in case I say a little bit more than I should or less than I could. So at that, let me just make sure that DC Venor is prepared to answer, and if that's correct, he can answer it for you. Good? Very good.
I'll go backwards to the one that occurred on Saturday evening. So on the 1900 block of Hunting Park, there was a birthday party / barbecue going on for someone, female, on that block. Lots of friends were invited and co-workers, from what I was told. At some point during this barbecue, an argument breaks out between males. That argument becomes physical, and from what I'm told, females joined in to the physical fight. At some point during that argument, a male drew a gun, fired, struck a 26-year-old female. She survived her injuries. She was struck in the arm, I believe. There was also a 26-year-old male that was struck in the head and was killed during that exchange. Everybody scattered, from what I was told, and people came to try to come to their aid. An individual came out of the house from the second floor after hearing the gunshots, and then it was a short time later, fires down the street in the direction of where there were people. So at this point, another individual was fatally struck, a 29-year-old, who I was told was trying to render aid to people that were shot. And also, we believe at that point, the 7-year-old received a wound to her head that caused her some very serious injuries where she had to get surgery. She's been stabilized, the female is stabilized, and obviously we have 2 deceased. The interviews and the evidence that they collected and through their investigation, the district attorney was able to charge a 20-year-old male, Lonzel David McDaniel. Now, that was the male that exited the house and fired down the street, all right? The individual that was shot was at the barbecue. He was part of the incident. I think everybody involved in this knew each other, so this is not going to be, as you know, something we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of. We're working very hard to find the first group of individuals that were fighting and bring them in, and the district attorney will review the evidence we have on them. But I'm not going to name them because we're not there yet. The first quadruple shooting the district attorney referred to happened Thursday, just around 9:30. What we know about this is also a graduation party on the block. At some point during the party, 2 young children, 11 and 12, male and female, their mother in her 20s, and also a 45-year-old male was part of a group playing football outside in the street, throwing the ball around when a black SUV decided to fly down the street at a very high rate of speed. Some of the adults that were playing football had some words with the occupants of that vehicle, and at some point the vehicle went all the way down to the top of the street. Within a few minutes, a male is seen standing at the top of the street firing in the direction of the crowd. That's when the 2 children are hit, their mother was hit, and this male was also struck in the arm. All of them are stabilized at this time. We are working very hard to get better video. We do have a video of the individual firing. 10 rounds were fired from that top of that street. So we're very lucky that more people weren't shot from what I was told. But at this point, we are waiting to see if we can get a better shot at that vehicle also. Anyone knows about that case, we're urging them to give us a call.
Let me, if I may, thank you, D.C. Venor. Let me reinforce that. Anybody got information? Come on. Now's the time. Let's go. Come forward. Let us know what's going on. We don't need to have people throwing a football around getting shot up. We don't need to have kids who are being operated on.
Can I add just one last thing? You had talked about the historic numbers, the reduction. You said, you said shootings, homicides, victims. Do you have any of those numbers that you can say?
We do, actually, and since, and we can put it up now. Now, what you are seeing here is actually the Philadelphia Police Department's daily updated, publicly available data. They have more than that, but this is what you'll see on a daily basis. It's what I see every morning, usually by 7 o'clock in the morning. And it does indicate this particular one. Marissa, if we could go to the top. This particular screenshot summarizes what has happened year over year. So, for example, you can see that it's listing 129 homicides to date. Understand those numbers are always, slightly off because because of the way numbers are tallied. But so last year at this time, it was 152 homicides, and that year ended up being the third lowest number of homicides by year end in the last 50 years. We're below that. We are at 15.13% fewer homicides on this date as compared to last year, and currently, it's not reflected here, but it is a fact, currently we have the lowest number of homicides on July the 28th that there have been in over 50 years. You see all the green arrows to the right here? These are green arrows, green as in good, as in go. These are green arrows showing that in every single violent crime category that is displayed here, crime is down, and overall total violent crime is down 9.55%. Most of the news in terms of property crime is similarly good, not all of it, but most of it. Overall, nearly an 8% decline. If we look at all Part 1 offenses, which is a combination of violent and property, what you're looking at is over an 8% decline in crime overall. And this is compared to last year, which was a historically good year. But maybe the most interesting point here is at the bottom. And that is that PPD in the last few years, I think wisely, started to post information on the number of shooting incidents and the number of shooting victims. And what we are seeing there is also good news. Despite the horrific news of the weekend, which is real, and we have to hold that in one hand, we can also hold in the other hand that shooting incidents overall are down over 18% as compared to the same day last year, which was a nationally historic year for improvement in gun violence, and locally historic year for improvement in gun violence, and even shooting victims down 7% again. So, none of that wipes away the reality of what a horrific, violent weekend it was. None of that wipes away the reality of what parents are going through when they have a child who has been shot or who has been killed by gun violence. But all of that should encourage us to say thank you to Commissioner Bethel, thank you to Sheriff Bilal, thank you to City Council and the Mayor for some very intelligent stuff that's being done around prevention and enforcement. Thank you to the people who work in this office who are also doing truly excellent work, both in terms of enforcement and prevention, in my opinion. And that, I would encourage every Philadelphian. It is important not only to take our news in, but to do a little investigation ourselves. I would encourage every Philadelphian, pick up your phone and look at it. And look at the Philadelphia Police Department's crime statistics on a daily basis so that you not only know what's happening today and how this weekend was, but you also know whether we seem to be headed in the right direction or not. Do you have any other questions, sir? All right, thank you. I think we are at Kelly Rule.
The 1900 block of West Hunting Park Avenue, there was a police presence there yesterday, and I know there was a homicide on that block earlier this month as well. Looks like it was a totally separate situation, and I think there was an arrest made, but will there be a bigger presence there moving forward, given, what that block's experienced this month?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, we as you know, we go through, we brief every day, every morning, to go through where we'll make some shifts in our deployment. We'll make some determination if that's an area where we're going to heighten our focus, which it probably will. And we do that in all our cases. But if I can add, the DA and your question about, I just also want to put some context in some of the violence that we're seeing. If we go back to 2022, we're down 60% in our homicides from 2022. And so that is significant. I mean, but I also want to commend the homicide, and I know working with the DA's team here and our shooting investigation team, we'll work with the DA's office. We're at a 92% clearance rate with our homicide investigators, and with our shooting investigation group, we're almost at 36%. That is significant, ladies and gentlemen, because that is the work really going after not just the individuals who are committing murders, but also the shooting investigation group. I know there's a conversation all the time about our juveniles. Right now, our juveniles, we're down 15% for our under 18. So last year, this time, we had 80. This year, we had 68 of our shootings, of all of our shootings. So you saw the number of the 600. So oftentimes we focus on our young people, but fortunately, even though we have had some significant incidents, particularly over the weekend, that number continues to stay low. And even when we look at our homicides, last year this time we had 9 homicides of young people under the age of 18. This year we have 11. And so we still are seeing our trend staying low, that the majority of the individuals who are involved in the violence is above the age of 18, but we're going to continue to do the work.
Commissioner White, still there. Did you touch on this, but car stops clearly continue to be extremely dangerous, and that's how Sergeant Roman lost his life, and in this case, it could have ended differently. Can you just talk about?
I mean, I think, well, I appreciate that. I mean, we've always known that in policing. Car stops are one of the most dangerous times for us, particularly because if I'm the driver, I already know what I'm going to do. As the officer, you're just coming upon approaching someone for a normal stop. Oftentimes, in this cases, when you don't know what they have and what they're protecting and what they've been out for other crimes before, so we always know. And so part of our job is to teach our men and women how to approach those vehicles in a safe manner. In this case, before they could even approach, these individuals fired upon them. But as you know, I wear Jamie Roman's, bracelet next to mine because it just reminds me of all the men and women of this department who lost their lives because of just going through these stops. So they are dangerous. However, they are continue to be a part of the work. Our goal is to get as many guns off the street so they don't injure someone else, take individuals out there who are doing harm to our community. So individuals like Ms. Wade back here who doesn't lose her child because someone out there is acting in a senseless and reckless manner. And so we're going to continue to do that work. And that's why I constantly stand here and tell you all how proud I am of these men and women, because they know that going into this work, but they still do it. The resilience of them, the work that they put in, knowing that, I cannot be more proud of them and will continue to be proud of them.
All right, thank you for that. Rodrigo Torrejon.
Okay, so I know that, just based on the numbers, there's been a significant continued decrease in shooting incidents overall. As of Sunday stated, the last 28 days, I believe, there has been a kind of a spike. Can you speak to that a little bit, what you see as the root causes for that spike, and also what you and, of course, law enforcement are doing to kind of combat that spike, that surge?
Sure. Well, number one, it is obviously disturbing. Anybody who picks up the paper, to the extent we even pick up papers, or clicks on the paper and sees these kinds of incidents is rightly disturbed. I mean, we should be. But I will tell you that when people in law enforcement are chatting among themselves, maybe not in front of a microphone, some of the things that I hear, with which I generally agree, are July is tough. The summer is tough. July is real tough. And that is, we could even run some data on it, but that is, I think, not an uncommon situation. You have a lot of things going on in July and August, including it's vacation for a lot of people. That has, in some ways, effects the same way the pandemic did. It means that you have some people who work in law enforcement, including in my office, who are on vacation. It means some of the people who might have been out there as witnesses whose presence might have deterred something are not there. It also, of course, means that young people are out of school. Young college students are out of school. That's just the reality of the situation. And then, of course, above all else, you have warm weather. So people are out and about, and they're out and about a lot, and the opportunities for either conflict or for some sort of a planned effort to shoot someone are there. I think that those are probably all factors, and that's why it is important to talk about year-to-date and to compare apples to apples. Comparing January to July doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But comparing this July to the last and the one before 50 times, I think that is probably more instructive. Again, none of that should make us feel good. I would like to live in a country where instead of 100 homicide victims, we had 11, and I can name you that country. A country where they also have 11 people in jail instead of our 100. They have that at the same time. So there is more work that we have to do as a country. There's more work that we have to do locally, but I do think those are some of the factors, and I want to make sure that I haven't, with my usual verbose response, denied others the opportunity to say more.
Yeah, I think it's unfair to select two dates and say that's a snapshot of time, right? I mean, we look at the long game. We look at it every day, every week, every month, every hour. That is how we operate. So, this time last year in July in 2022 was 60 homicides. Today we look at 16. I think if you're going to just pick two periods of time, then we'll play that. We'll be going up and down. We work in our department to look at the totality of all the data, look at all the information available to us, look at the intelligence that goes with it, working with our colleagues here, and then we make an informed decision as to we're going to deploy, and see we can address those issues. But I can't, there's going to be these incidents. For example, in 2022, we had 25 shootings where there were 4 or more people shot. Today, we have 8 year-to-date. I mean, those are part of the work. And as indicated, July is one of our most challenging months, but we are winning this summer. The summer has always been a challenge for us just because the weather, everyone's out, a lot more engagement, a lot more conflict. But we're going to continue to stay focused on the work. I wish I could put me in a 2-week bubble, but this is a big bubble for us and a big long game for us.
Anything else, Mr. Torrejon?
The only thing was just updates on, there was a bunch of other shootings too, along with the 2 quadruple shootings, but I can speak to you guys after.
Very good. All right, thank you. Geisha Torres, 65 Univision.
I would like to do very much.
Okay, very good, we'll do that. Let me see, Mansadine, The Trace.
Yes, Commissioner Bethel just touched on youth, but with summer upon us, I'm curious, could you all give us your impression of how the youth curfew is functioning, or meeting its goals, or if it is your estimation?
All right, let me make sure everybody heard that question, because I know there may be some people up here who want to participate in answering it. The question from Mr. Dean is, can we give him our impression of whether the youth curfew is working, and any thoughts about that? Is that basically it?
Yes, and also the community evening resource centers, those have been around for about 4 or 5 years. Also, tell us what you know about how those centers are functioning.
Community resource centers also, how they're functioning.
Well, I mean, as far as curfews are a tool from law enforcement tool that we use for our enforcement. I mean, our objective in those in that context is to take those youth home. We do that on a regular basis. I don't have the specific statistics to you. We can get you the specific statistic as it relates to that. As it relates to the evening reporting centers, they are linked to the curfew, but our policy is to take those individuals home. If you heard most recently in the budget hearings, we were working with our partners at DHS, they also use those for places where young people can go in the evenings. And so they have become a very, very much part of the out-of-school time, the late hour time, to have a safe place for our children to go. So those centers are active, alive, and working and thriving to keep a lot of our young people off the street. And that's why I think consistently over the last decade, you'll see our juvenile crime is around 9 to 12%, and it stayed there. That is because of the hard work that folks out there in the community do each and every day with our young people. That is because the out-of-school time, that is because of school and having the school being engaged, and the work that we've done with Commissioner Slauson, with our rec department and recs, having the kids coming to our rec centers, staying in there, working the kids, working through the summer, all of that, I believe, has been successful. So even though we continue to focus on our juveniles, even though I continue to say that they only represent 12%, 10 to 12% of all our violence and our crime, we can continue to make them a focal point when oftentimes those folks out there who are working with our young people are doing an absolutely amazing job. It does not get lead and doesn't lead anywhere because you won't see it. But the reality is our young people are doing well. Most of our kids do extremely well and are not engaged in negative behavior. And so we're going to continue that process. Curfews are a part of that work to make sure our kids, young people stay in. But as we share with you the violence today, a large percentage of our violence is well above our curfew age.
Commissioner, do you believe that the curfews for these 6 evening resource centers, are they part of the reason why you're saying there's a slight dip in juvenile?
I think we're going to find, this takes a lot of analysis to find the why, right? I think we know that we have a strategy of prevention, intervention, and enforcement that we all are collectively working on, and the mayor has championed. And sometimes we're not going to find that unless someone gets in there and does a core research. But I know from our work, and we know anecdotally, we have the former head of OJJP here, will tell you that when we engage young people, having a positive young person in a child's life can totally change the trajectory of where that kid go, because I'm a product of that. And so we know that as long as we're engaging our young people, keeping them away from those negative elements, that we can be successful. So whether it's in a search center, whether it's after a rec center, no matter where it is, we can be successful.
Just really a couple comments to reinforce, I think, the point that the commissioner already made so well. He was pointing at Bob Listenby, First Assistant Bob Listenby, for a reason, which is that the commissioner and Bob have something in common. They've been focused on kids to a large extent their whole career, not exclusively, but to a very large extent and in very serious ways. Even the commissioner's plans to have an expanded pre-arrest diversion program for juveniles speak to the fact that they both recognize, and also Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and I'll talk about that in a second, just one of many people on council who really deeply recognize the value of investing in young people. Think about it for a second. It's not just about what a 16-year-old does today or does not do today, although that's incredibly important. What is that 16-year-old going to be at 30? What is that 16-year-old going to be at 25 and 35? What is that person going to be? We better invest in young people if we do not want to see them coming back and coming back and coming back to do longer and longer sentences in jail and do more and more harm. And they're dead on. They're absolutely right. This is exactly what we have to do. And by they, I mean both the commissioner and Bob Listenby, who was Barack Obama's chief of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention in Obama's second term. In other words, he was in charge of juvenile justice for the United States of America in Barack Obama's second term. There's a deep knowledge here. But I do want to make sure we give flowers, as they say, to Majority Leader and Council Member Catherine Gilmore Richardson, who comes from a background that includes education, has been a real champion of having centers and resources for young people where they can do constructive things. They can be kept away from negative things. It's something she's very passionate about. And I still remember talking to her about this in the winter. Well, it's the summer. And yeah, we're seeing some numbers that are pretty encouraging, despite the fact that we are also seeing terrible, tragic incidents, and they are ongoing. But we need more of that. We need more and more and more of our government officials and our community-based organizations, including many that have received micro-funding, micro-grant funding from this office and have also received very substantial grants either from the city or from the state. We need more and more of this collective effort, this interconnected effort, this huge net of support for young people. And when we see that, we see this. All right, let me see. I believe that concludes it. Did I miss anybody? If I missed somebody, this is your chance. Tell me off. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm back at it. Commissioner, I was just going to ask you, you touched on it a little bit, but every year we see at the beginning of the summer, hey, we're getting ready, we know it's coming. Just wanted to get your thoughts on how you think summer has gone violent crime-wise?
I think the summer is going well compared to last year's numbers. May was a little bit of a challenging month, but we were able to reset. We are trending significantly lower than our previous years as we go through the summer. Provision shooting incidents, our shootings down slightly, and so we feel confident that our strategy combined with others. So we know this is a big tent. This is not just the police department, it's others in collaboration with us, but we think we are in the right space. We work very well with our partners, with under Adam Gear, to be able to support us as we do our group violent interventions and other activity to support that work. Obviously, work in collaboration with our DAs and others to make sure we're going after those more violent offenders. But I think we're trending well, but there is no brake pad. We have to continue to keep our foot on the gas and never let it go.
Is there anything you would attribute that to? Is it strategy? Is it collaboration?
Listen, I'm always going to put it, listen, we've said from the time we've been working that if we stay focused, use the data we know where our violence occurs. We know the areas that we have to win. And so we are consistently focusing on aligning all of the other activity around that to really continue to focus on those areas that have the highest level of violence. We're going to continue to do that on a regular basis. So I think that is a big part of it. I think the prevention and intervention activity that is occurring out in the community is a big part of that. I think all that collective effort, all of that working in synergy and working, as the mayor has indicated, as one Philly, is leading us in the right direction. And we're going to keep pressing to do that. I think if Ms. Wade was to walk up here and ask you, one is too many, right? And so I think we have to, will we ever get there? I don't know if that will ever happen. But if we don't keep pushing and aspire to be a better city, if we don't keep pushing to say that, we can continue to make this a safe city, as all of us have indicated, and the mayor has stressed repeatedly, then shame on us. Because at the end of the day, those same areas that are seeing a reduction in crime are still the same areas that see the reduction in the violence. See the violence. So to them, it may have been 50 last year and 25 this year, but they still have 25. And so we still have to go in those communities and work hard to try to address that violence so those folks who live in those communities each and every day have a quality of life that we all want.
Just a final comment before we go. We talk about numbers, and we should. That's science, that's knowledge, that's evidence, that's fact. We should talk about it. We also talk about horrific situations. You don't always see the faces. We don't always talk about the names, and we shouldn't in many instances. But something we don't talk about that I think maybe expresses the human side of this is, what does it mean to be an emergency room doctor, an emergency surgeon, anesthesiologist, specialized nurse? What does it mean when instead of having 100 people come through your emergency room or your emergency rooms over the course of a month, that turns into 40? Obviously, we don't want 40, but does that mean you can breathe? Does it mean you can spend more time? Does it mean that you can get it right, that you can save more lives, you can do the thing that you studied to do, which is actually heal people? Does it mean that? And what is the impact of that on the families that need answers from a doctor, and finally a doctor has time to talk to them instead of running to another room where another person just came in with a gunshot wound? The impact of improvement is important. It is sweeping. Those jobs are incredibly hard. They are no easier than the jobs that we do, might even be harder. They're incredibly hard, and we should be glad that just as detectives have a little bit more time to work on each case that comes in, if it's a shooting case or it's a homicide case, that doctors and nurses and police officers and prosecutors have a little bit more time to get it right, to breathe, to recover themselves from what they are experiencing secondhand or third hand. That is some of the impact of this. And so I hope we will not lose sight of those people as we talk about this. Thank you very much.